I believe we're probably on there, ladies and gents. So welcome again to the third rendition episode of the Journey Podcast Live. We've got a special guest for you this evening, along with Jake Dennes. Jake, we'll bring you in first, actually, mate. Welcome to the Journey. Thanks for jumping in. We'll see you quite a bit over our journey, I guess, mate. You've got a sensational setup there, so thank you very much.
That's all right, mate. Go over and above. You know what's expected and needed when called upon. Yeah, thanks, Howman, for Jace having a bit of a night off. Shout out to him for letting me step up to first grade off the pine, as they say. So, you know, happy to jump in and have a bit of a chat and see what makes Jamie tick. And interested to see what this podcast world's all about as well.
Amen. So let's bring him in. Awesome. With no further ado, we've got a very good-looking chap. My brother from the same mother.
Good stock. Good stock.
Yeah, good stock.
Yeah.
Dr. Jamie Barnier. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. This is actually my first podcast. Would you believe? I didn't say that before. So yes, pressure.
Yeah, mate.
So,
rocks and diamonds, as they say. You know, we'll see how we go.
Awesome.
Amen. So we're going to dub this one at Jamie's request, The Accidental Business Owner, which I think is very apt. So Jamie, before we dive in, mate, do you want to give our loyal fans and mum, hello mumsy, a quick little rundown of what it is you do, who it is you help, and how you help them?
Awesome. So I am a clinical psychologist. I work in private practice down in Melbourne, in Fairfield. It's kind of like the inner northern suburbs of Melbourne. I see adult clients, you know, kind of 15 is about the lowest that I kind of work with, right up until, you know, kind of whoever wants to see me. I guess that the people I tend to see really nowadays are people that have had difficulties that have been quite chronic, that, you know, kind of they've really been struggling for years, if not decades, with things, and are really wanting to, you know, not only just get some sort of symptomatic relief, but really get to the bottom of their difficulties. You know, I've had this anxiety for years and years and years, and I've never really been able to get on top of it. And I know that it affects me, you know, in my work life, my relationships, and I really want to get to the bottom about, you know, kind of why this is going on and what I can do about it. So people that really want to do that more kind of deeper level kind of work. And yeah, I guess that kind of work tends to take a little bit longer than, you know, kind of if we're just kind of shooting towards giving someone more kind of symptomatic relief. So I guess I tend to sort of work with people more kind of on a medium term and sometimes even sort of longer term basis as well.
Love it. So you're based in Melbourne, mate. So
I am, yeah.
We spoke a little bit earlier. What's the most exciting thing in your world at the moment? You're leaving the house.
Leaving the house. Who would have thought, right? I mean, we've kind of just been in this lockdown, which has been never ending. And I was saying before that the gyms opened up yesterday. So I think, you know, we're calling it sort of the Corona belly. That you know, there's been a few extra kilos that have formed. A lot of Netflix that's been watched, and you know, just being able to get back out, seeing friends as well. You know, at the thick of it, we weren't able to have, you know, I live on my own. So not being able to have anyone over, not being really able to have any human contact beyond going on a 1 hour walk with someone if they lived within 5 kilometers of you. So, you know, kind of really kind of harsh from a social perspective, really kind of harsh stuff, but obviously a reason behind that. But, you know, it had quite a big toll on you know, kind of a lot of people. I guess I've never been busier, and everyone I speak to, even up north in Queensland, you know, practice owners alike are saying that they've never really been as busy as they have been now. So I think the, I guess, social, psychological kind of effects of coronavirus, lockdown, everything that's gone with it, have been far-reaching. So being able to leave the house is really exciting.
Yeah. Did you find, Jamie, throughout the time of being in isolation, because I don't know, how many weeks were you guys locked up for down there?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I think it started in March, right? And I think we were all kind of, you know, in lockdown for a little while, and then we were out of it for maybe 10-ish days. It was just shy of 2 weeks where, kind of the cafes were open, gyms were open, there was limits and that type of thing. And then we were back into lockdown, and the second lockdown, that was on about July 7. And it's really only been recently where we've started to, up until yesterday, we couldn't go more than 25 kilometers. And before that, it was no more than 5 kilometers. So it's I think someone that a gym owner was kind of saying that the gym's been shut for around 270 odd days, apart from maybe 10 days in between. So it's really been since March up until, really recently with kind of like a 10-day respite in between. So I think they were saying that in Melbourne, it's probably been just about one of the longest lockdowns that we've had, kind of across the globe. So pretty hard stuff to sit with.
What was because you touched on Netflix before, mate. I'm sure that's been a staple for everyone out there. But what's been your go-to? What's been the gem that you've uncovered?
The go-to season? Yeah, well, I've got a Netflix subscription, but I got Chloe, our sister, her Stan subscription. So it's like a whole new world has opened up to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I've gone back and watched, I've been watching at the moment Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So my partner Jen's a big fan. I'm familiar. So season 2 at the moment, it's going well. It's going well, killing the vampires and vanquishing the demons, all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Jamie, do you see any consistencies? I guess with the types of people that are reaching out to yourself, or at least have reached out to yourself, whether it be through booking sessions or just conversations online,
right?
What kind of consistencies do you see, or is it a case of it affects everyone differently? The COVID, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say more the latter. Everyone's situation is different. I touched on before, the fact that I live alone, and kind of there's other people that, kind of live with, kind of a partner situation, other people who've got families that are kind of all living together, and depending on how the kids are too, we've got parents that are, really having to hold down full-time jobs as well as be teachers, as well as be a parent as well. So, just the amount of expectation that was put on people was probably, it was too much. I guess, kind of everyone's situation is unique because, kind of some of the difficulties that come with living alone are different compared to if you're living in a share house situation, or if you're living with a partner, living with a family, so I guess that there is, there's kind of some overlap, but I think at the same time, there's a lot of differences as well.
Mate, let's jump into your journey. And
okay.
I love that. Take us back to the start, mate. Talk us through it, because you weren't always in private practice.
No, well, that's right. So I started working as a psych probably about 2011 was when I was still finishing off my postgrad, and got my psych registration through about 2/3 of the way through my doctorate degree. And my first job was, I had 2 jobs at the same time. One was kind of working at the uni doing sort of like a parenting intervention program. And the second job I actually got was in private practice. I didn't necessarily want to work in private practice straight away because, you're really kind of working on your own, and you don't really know who is going to come through your door and how much difficulty they have. And, particularly when you're quite green and sort of raw and, kind of just learning the ropes, you really kind of need a lot of guidance with that. But, I was still studying, so I needed kind of like a part-time job, and, health and, the public government sort of jobs, they really up in Queensland, it's kind of full-time or nothing. And so I kind of just have always worked in the private sector. But after I graduated, I worked for Queensland Health for a number of years, then sort of jumped over to an NGO, non-government organisation for a while, and then sort of back to Queensland Health. So, kind of worked full time, but along the side, I've always kind of worked in private practice, kind of one night a week. So, kind of really sort of small part-time sort of thing. And I should mention too that was kind of, in a subcontracting sort of capacity. So it was someone else's business, and they would, kind of do a lot of the marketing, referring out to me. So I would just rock up, see the people, do my work, and sort of go home. So I really wasn't needing to do any kind of work on, kind of growing the business. I was kind of subcontracting essentially for someone else's business. And so by and large, that is what I've, kind of done most of the time. So been down in Melbourne for almost 4 years now. And really kind of thought, there was a point in my life where I just felt that I needed to make quite a few changes, a bit of a shake-up. And part of that, I thought, well, why don't I just kind of work, instead of getting a job working for the man, why don't I just, kind of work in the private sector, kind of maybe work 4 days a week. I'll have a bit more of a work-life balance, I'll kind of have a 3-day weekend and, really kind of get, kind of connected and sort of planted and start a new life down here. And I guess starting out, I was subcontracting for 2 different clinics. One of them didn't sort of work out. There really just wasn't any referrals. So I sort of moved on and have been at another clinic for most of the time. And I guess along the side, I started to sort of work for myself, just leasing rooms, literally for 1 hour at a time. And I, kind of put out some advertisements and had some clients. And slowly I started to build that while I was kind of working for someone else. And it really wasn't only until it was literally last month that I kind of stepped down from my role, stopped contracting at the other clinic. And probably I could have done that quite a while ago, at least a year ago. But, kind of wanted to stay there to kind of keep my foot in the door, to have networking opportunities and, kind of a few other bits and pieces, things that you don't really get access to when you're kind of just working for yourself.
Cool. A lot of people will, people are obviously usually in 2 kind of schools of thought when they set their mind on a career path. Were you one of those guys, like through school, you knew exactly what you wanted to do, where you wanted to be, that kind of guy? Or were you kind of someone like myself that finished school, didn't really know what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go, and, tried a few different things and, went into hospitality and cooked for a while, and then now found a role in digital marketing and sales that, I don't dream of leaving later on in life. What sort of path did you take to get where you are now?
Yeah, sure. A bit of both, to be honest. Like for a long time, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, right up until about, kind of as far back when I was a kid, until about year 10, I thought, I wanted to go to law school and be a lawyer. I think, you watch a lot of TV and you just kind of see this, kind of cool court cases and think that's what it's going to be like. Yeah. But not even that, kind of just, I wanted to sort of prosecute, kind of criminals and all that sort of stuff as well. And then, kind of year 10, I kind of had this sort of about face where I thought, maybe I want to become sort of a forensic scientist. I think I was watching, CSI at the time. I thought, that might be cool, kind of solving crime. So I kind of had this, kind of leaning towards that. And I actually enrolled in a science degree straight after high school, and started that. And probably really wasn't ready to be at uni. I'd worked really hard at school and probably was a bit burnt out, and really felt overwhelmed. Adjusting from high school to uni, and it really wasn't what I wanted to do. And so 6 weeks in, kind of dropped out. And then, I knew I wanted to do something at uni. I knew I wanted to study something. And to be honest, I actually didn't even know what a psychologist was at that point in my life. I knew what a counselor was, but I had no idea what a psychologist was. I just didn't know what that job was out there. And so I was reading the QTAC book, the little book that tells you about all the university courses up in Queensland, and looked up counsellor, and then it had related things and had psychology. And I thought, okay, well, I'll give that a go. And it really wasn't until I started doing postgrad, so about, kind of 5 years in, that I thought, this is what I want to be doing. I think the undergrad sort of degree has a pretty strong research focus, lots and lots of stats, lots of history of psychology. So quite a bit different from, I guess, what I do now in terms of day-to-day clinical work. And so I'd spent 4 years studying this field that I thought, geez, I'm really not sure if this is what I want to do, because I guess my experience of it back then was that it didn't really prepare you or teach you what it was, the nature of being a psychologist. One of the things that happens with psych in the undergrad degree, you actually don't have any practical experience. You don't go on practice or anything like that, like teachers or social workers. And so you're really just in kind of lectures and tutorials the whole time. And it's not really until you get into postgrad that you go on these placements and you get a bit of a feel for what the actual
real world
job. Yeah, exactly. So I almost kind of thought at the end of my fourth year, well, geez, do I do something else? Kind of, again, I was looking at the QTAC book, and then I thought, well, I'll just, apply for postgrad and see if they'll have me. And, I was lucky enough to get in. And yeah, probably about that first week, learning about, proper clinical work, really thought, this is where I'm meant to be. This is what I want to be doing.
Mate, awesome. Let's jump into some operations or that kind of stuff. Let's actually, before we do that, Mumsy's dropped in.
What's she got to say?
She said to ask, are you doing Movember?
Am I doing Movember? Well, what are we, like 10 days in or something?
Yeah,
no, so sorry, Mum, I haven't. I think I was clean shaved a little while ago. Dad's doing it, apparently.
Yeah,
I saw something on Facebook.
I did see a post as well. I think there needs to be a donation from the Journey team, I think.
Absolutely.
That's got to happen, Nathan.
Yeah, there'll be a couple of donations flying in.
The OG. I'll put a link
somewhere.
Jump on Brian's Movember page.
Yeah.
Amen. Jamie, you've there's been so many iterations of your, I guess, business model, and ways that you've been able to, I guess, amplify your own awareness in the business and bring on your own clients, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a doozy. You ready, mate?
Right. Let's go.
What's one thing, one thing you wish you knew before starting your business that you know today?
One thing. I was thinking about this before, and I think probably just that it would all work out. I guess it would all be okay. Jake, you were saying before that, kind of starting out in business, you're sometimes worried about, am I going to be able to put food on the table, it's just me as well. So, kind of if this thing sort of folds, then, I don't sort of have any sort of backup sort of plan as well. So I had a lot of anxiety and sort of pressure, and even though self-imposed pressure, even though, I did it really sensibly. I was working for someone else, and there was enough referrals coming in, and really slowly and gradually, I didn't sort of just go from leaving a full-time job to, okay, well, I'm going to start private practice next week and have no backup plan or no savings or anything like that. So in spite of having, kind of, I guess, a cushion, savings, all that kind of thing, I still kind of was anxious, kind of, is this thing going to work? What's my backup plan? I really didn't sort of have one.
Everyone is kind of conditioned to be used to having that safety net of an employer or of a company, right? And
totally.
Yeah, I get that. That's a pretty big step that you've taken there, mate. So it's interesting to sort of hear it from your perspective. So I guess, when did you decide to make that? How long had you been sort of out from under a company working, as a subcontractor, as you call it? How long had you been doing that before you took that jump to go, this is my own business now?
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing my own marketing, getting my face and my brand out and about, and, getting your own referrals coming in.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was probably almost 2 almost 3, somewhere between 2 and 3 years now. So as I said, I was working, for a private practice on the side, and then started out leasing rooms, literally 1 hour at a time. I'd have one client, and then, I'd be able to lease it, and lease it sort of per hour. I didn't really want the commitments of committing to a lease or even a full day, renting somewhere for a full day. So, an hour I can sort of manage, and then really just kind of grew that kind of organically and sort of naturally. And I think over time, I just started to really did my best to try to upskill in different areas such as marketing, SEO. I was at uni for 9 years or something studying psychology, so I've got no business background or anything like that. So really kind of have picked things up along the way. I don't. It's funny. I guess I sort of Nathan asked me before, what do you want to call this thing? As the accidental business owner, because even it's only really been recently that I would even see myself or identify as a business owner. People would say, even as a subcontractor, your business, and I'd sort of be like, well, no, I don't really have a business. It was hard for me to kind of accept that and, kind of take it on. Maybe it was, kind of this fear that, kind of, then it became this real thing. It was almost like I was in a little bit of denial, kind of doing all the things, but not really kind of accepting what was, what was really happening at the same time.
So you obviously, let's dive in a little bit. Have you got external help with any stretch of the imagination? Like, have you got people looking after your books? You got people helping with anything to do with your business at the moment?
I've got a few different things, and they're all, I don't have any employees or anything like that. So they're all kind of contractors. And so I guess that the main one is an accountant. Kind of, you need that for tax, right? I have a company tax structure, and so that has complications in terms of, being able to do BAS and all that kind of stuff. So he's fantastic. I've only really recently brought someone on to do a little bit of admin stuff for me, a little bit of admin support. Had someone helping out with that a little while ago, but really wasn't using them to their full potential. I had kind of a lot of, some difficulty being able to let go, when it's your own baby. Sometimes, it's being able to delegate and just let people, do some of the things that you're doing. It's hard to let go of some of that control. So recently I've brought him on, and again, he just does contracting sort of as needed. He's about to study his postgrad in psychology as well. So he's doing really good. What else do I have? Accountants. I use a virtual kind of phone. What do you call them? Sort of people sort of phone up. Yeah. So I've got sort of an admin phone number, and it's a team where they, kind of basically take my calls for me and sort of pass on messages, a virtual admin, but essentially they just do phone. They book appointments, that type of thing as well. I give my number out to people if they need to, and they can sort of write back to the text, and I receive it. I still get emails and stuff too. So, I still do a lot of that stuff, but they're there sort of as needed as well. And the other thing too, I have a cleaner, which is great. I'm not averse to, kind of mopping and doing all that sort of stuff. I'm forever cleaning up after my dog, but she's great. She does a much more thorough job than what I can. So that's really good as well. So I'm only really recently starting to embrace, kind of delegation. And what I'm finding is that the more I am delegating, the easier, kind of the less stressed I sort of feel, and the more time you sort of have as well. So it's great.
Sounds like you're still doing a lot yourself, mate. What would you say your, what's your favorite tool that you're using at the moment?
Yeah, so day to day, I would say it's probably the practice management software that I use. So, it's this software where it basically, it keeps track of all my appointments, client sort of files. I have to obviously keep notes of sessions. There's referrals from GPs that come in. I can text them from it. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop to do all the kind of clinical side that come, all the note keeping, admin sort of side that comes with what I do. So that's pretty invaluable. There's a lot of old school psychs out there that are still kind of doing the paper pen, kind of keeping sort of paper records of things, and I can type a lot quicker than I can write. And bit of a closet sort of tree hugger as well at heart. So, wanted to really sort of be as paperless as I could be. And so that probably is, I use it every day that I'm working. And it's probably the best, sort of tool that I have.
Do you want to just give us a little bit of insight? I imagine with so much experience and different iterations that we touched on, what do you believe is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far, mate?
Biggest lesson? Holy dooly. Biggest lesson. Probably, kind of slow and steady. I would say one of the things that, kind of personality wise, I sort of touched on before, I would never sort of be the type that would, just quit my job and then, kind of the very next day set up shop somewhere. I just didn't want that pressure, that responsibility. So I think that any kind of business model, you really need to sort of think about what stage you are in terms of the business development, and think about, kind of consolidation at every stage. I think sometimes businesses can tend to get into trouble if they grow, kind of too quickly, being able to, and not have the systems in place to really sustain that growth. So I think for me, I would much rather, kind of take things slow and do things sort of thoroughly, than kind of, sort of rush things. And that has an interesting parallel with therapy as well. I find that sometimes, particularly sort of earlier on in my career too, I would put all this pressure on myself to really get to the bottom of someone's difficulties the moment that I met them. And kind of you try to rush forward and do things without really sort of understanding someone and their problems, their difficulties, the things that make them sort of tick and function. And so I found that when I really started to slow things down, eventually down the track, things tend to just happen, fall into place a lot more organically, and often sort of quickly as well. There's often that preparation phase, which can seem like you're doing a lot, because you are, but it's really setting up not just, that stage, but, stage 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do the flip coin then, mate. What's your biggest win?
Biggest win?
Yeah, man. Here's a humble brag. Let's go.
You know what? Don't even be humble.
Yeah.
I would say for me, it would be just being able to go out on my own, being able to have enough clients to be able to have a business where I can, kind of be able to sustain myself, have a comfortable sort of living, be able to, do some good for people as well. Really, that's probably been it. As I sort of said, I never really thought that this would be me. This would be, kind of how I would sort of, my career would go. But now I'm sort of in this. I love, kind of having my own business. It's stressful, and, the days you feel like sort of pulling your hair out or going back to the salary job. But, there's a lot of flexibility that comes with it, and just being able to have, kind of that freedom. But also, kind of just that sense of achievement with knowing that you've created something from nothing, and that's, kind of been a really sort of good thing. So that for me has kind of been, the biggest achievement, I'd say. Just the fact that I'm still here, kind of people put their trust in me, kind of week in and week out, and, kind of have enough faith in me to try to help them with things, and, help me sort of have this business and do what I love doing.
What's the setup down there, mate? I know it's different for everyone. Have you got maybe like a business support network that you all, kind of lean on and rely on and confide in, share ideas, all that kind of stuff?
Look, at the moment, not really, to be honest. I mean, I've done different, I've kind of worked with business coaches for different, kind of, one was, once a month for a year, and another one was like, more short and intensive for a couple of months sort of thing. So, periodically I've sort of engaged help. I've got a couple of, sort of friends that also sort of work in private practice for themselves. One has a clinic of his own. And so, from time to time, we sort of touch base. I mean, I've got professional supports like a supervisor that I look at clinical cases with. I've got peers that I sort of catch up with, and we discuss cases. So the professional side of things is sort of sorted. But from a business side of things, not really. And it's actually something I, kind of am thinking about how to grow that support network, particularly given that I am, kind of really working for myself on my own at the moment. So I feel like I've learned quite a bit over the last couple of years, but, there's so much that you can, kind of learn from other people, and even just that sense of support as well. So it's, I'm on the lookout. So hopefully next year, I might be able to look at sort of expanding things into sort of more of that business support stuff that you were talking about.
You ever had a mentor?
Mentor? No.
Not yet. Hit him
Not
up.
yet.
Hit him up.
I have. I probably
He's available. He's available, ladies and gentlemen. He's available.
Oh, Jakey, is that what you're saying? Sorry, I missed that.
No. I said you're available.
Oh,
You're available for a mentor. Mentors.
Oh, absolutely.
Get in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Phone on in.
Yeah.
That was smooth.
It was so not smooth.
Who's that? All right. So no mentors. Who would you say your biggest influence is thus far?
Yeah, sure. I would say, kind of, I guess, in terms of sort of professional mentor, I'd say I've had a supervisor, the same supervisor for about 6 years now. So in terms of clinical development, he's fantastic. I still see him every week. I tape, video record a lot of my sessions, most of them if people give me permission to, and we actually look back over the sessions and find out, kind of some of the, I guess, the tricky spots, the things that I might have missed in the moment. So he's been invaluable over the last 6 years, and next year I'm going to keep him, but there's also another, he's actually a psychiatrist based in Canada, that the type of therapy I do, he probably is one of the gurus. He's probably done most of the research that comes out across the whole world. So I've contacted him, and we're going to do some supervision next year as well. So, really excited for that. So I guess professionally and clinically, it probably wasn't fair when I said I haven't had mentors, because they probably have been mentors, professional mentors, and they've helped me no end. Like I'm a totally different clinician because of their expertise and input.
That's a pretty interesting point. Like, you're obviously doing ongoing development for yourself, videoing sessions with obviously people's approval, and then going back and reviewing them with the gentleman or the people that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How much of that stuff do you do on a weekly basis? Like, is it an everyday thing for you? Is it once a week? Like, when and what are you sort of doing to sharpen your tools and make sure the best you is out there every day?
Yeah, totally. So I read basically every day. Like, I've always got my head in the textbook, and I tend to sort of read fairly widely, but also narrowly as well. So the type of therapy I do, ICDP, intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, doesn't, probably those words mean nothing, but a lot of the textbooks and stuff that come out, they're fairly unique in that they actually will have transcripts of actual client sessions. And so they'll look at, sort of, this is what we do sort of here, and this is an example. And so you can actually read through around, kind of when roadblocks come up, when difficulties in therapy arise, how they identify that, how they kind of work with it as well. So really kind of practical kind of stuff. So I try to sort of read for about half hour every day. It doesn't happen invariably. Sometimes life gets in the way. I probably spend anywhere between 1 to 3 hours a week kind of watching back tapes. And then I sort of have supervision as well. Most weeks, I would say, which goes for about sort of an hour. Some weeks I have it, if I meet with sort of a peer, we kind of take it in turns, where I look at, kind of her cases one week, and then, she'll look at mine. So we kind of tag team.
Yep.
So I'd say probably somewhere between 5-ish hours, give or take. I'd like to, I guess I had wanted to sort of do more. I guess this year, we were talking about lockdown before. I had a lot of people that I had finished up with that had recontacted me and wanted to kind of come in again. So at the moment, I've got a wait list. But I guess if I've seen people before, I'll always try to sort of fit them in. So before coronavirus, I'd actually made plans to, kind of work slightly less clinical hours, so that I could, kind of really up, kind of the professional development sort of stuff.
Yep.
I guess I was saying before that I guess the types of people I see that they've had difficulties for years, if not decades, and there's a lot of complexity that comes with that. And so, for that reason, I've kind of purposefully, kind of made sure that I've got ongoing supervision, that, we've got obviously minimum requirements that we have to meet to keep our registration, but it's fairly easy to meet them. So I tend to sort of do far and above what we have to sort of do. And it really just helps you, kind of not burn out essentially, and to kind of feel as though you're actually delivering a good service, which I guess in the private sector, if you're, or anywhere really, if you're charging people money, you want to be making sure that you're actually helping them, particularly when it comes to mental health too, because people are really sort of struggling and suffer quite tremendously. So, I guess there's quite a responsibility that comes with that to do the best that you can to help people through whatever it is that they're going through.
Like a bit random. You got a favorite book?
Favorite book? Ooh. Yeah, I'll say two of them. One's a textbook. What is it called? Reaching Through Resistance, which is by Alan Abbas, the psychologist, the guy that I was talking about before, that I hopefully might do some supervision with next year. And it's about a number of cases that he sort of works with. The next one, it's actually one that I recommend to a lot of clients that I work with as well. It's called It's Not Always Depression, by Hilary Jacobs Hendel. And it's all about how sometimes I guess she uses a lot of, again, lots of case examples of people that came in to see her for treatment of depression, what they were diagnosed with. But really at the core root of it, there were underlying emotional issues, emotions which had been, kind of repressed for a long time, hadn't been dealt with. And really what they found was that depression was kind of the surface level thing. Underneath that was, repressed grief, anger, feelings of love, or whatever it was. And once you kind of were able to identify and work through that, the depression kind of resolved itself. When you kind of deal with the cause, the symptoms tend to, kind of really, that they don't really need to stick around anymore. So I recommend it to everyone that comes to see me, because it's a similar approach to how I work. And so it gives them a little bit of an idea as to what they're in for. There's a lot of different types of therapy out there. And so I try, I guess as part of, my, for want of a better term, onboarding process, try to make sure that people know what kind of therapy I sort of deliver. They kind of have an idea as to what they're in for if they come and see me as well, so that, there's no sort of surprises or anything like that.
Yeah, cool.
Are you finding that there's a lot less social stigma around seeking help? And we'll tap into the second part of that question, mate. Do you want to just highlight, I guess, the easiest way or the paths that someone can take to seek out someone like yourself?
Sure. So first part of the question, is there less stigma? Yes and no. I mean, certainly in the last 10, 20 years, there's been, kind of heaps of organizations that have, kind of sprung up. Beyond Blue, some of the NGOs, I think up in Queensland, It Ain't Weak to Speak. We've got Are You OK Day. So there's lots more information out there, and there's a lot of people, kind of really advocating for mental health and education. I know a lot of the sporting teams, the AFL, cricketing, they're pretty onto it too. They're trying to, kind of really bring in a lot of supports for a lot of their players, because we know that a lot of people in that, kind of in those kind of industries really do struggle as well. At the same time, we know from a research point of view that most people that actually do need to seek help actually don't get it. So we're only treating a minority of kind of the people that would actually need to, kind of see someone and need sort of help with something. Sorry, I just had a pop-up message. Restart computer, don't want to do that. And certainly in therapy as well, one of the things that sort of tends to come up a lot of times is if people sometimes can have a conversation with you like we're having now, which is, sort of fairly cognitive, and there's not a lot of emotion sort of being sort of activated. But the minute that they start to get, kind of really sort of a feeling of sort of sadness, or even kind of like a joyful feelings of anger, they become a little bit anxious, and then they become a bit sort of defended or sort of closed off, and they'll actually try to push that part of them down. They'll actually be, a little bit reluctant to show that side of them, which is really kind of part of the difficulty. And so even people that have decided to, kind of seek out help, sometimes even when they've kind of in the room and there to sort of really get to the bottom of the difficulties when things start to sort of happen. I think part of the stigma and kind of invariably when I say, what's coming up for you right now? Well, I feel sad, but I don't want to share that with you because, kind of, I don't want you to think that I'm weak. Or kind of I feel a bit vulnerable or exposed. So I mean, people don't always feel kind of, what's the word I'm thinking of, don't feel comfortable, I suppose, being able to share kind of themselves in terms of their emotional self with people, and also kind of even the therapist as well. So I think things have definitely sort of come a long way, but I think there's work to sort of be done as well.
So big picture view. Sorry, Jake, jump in, mate.
No, you're right. Just following up from that, obviously, Nathan, great question, mate. Do you usually find people are getting to sort of, this point where they just aren't able to manage when they're coming to see you? When should someone come and seek someone out like you? Like, when would you recommend? What is there a perfect time? Because I'm assuming a lot of people are like me, where they don't go to the doctor unless they got like 1 foot out the door, heading into the grave, and they're at bloody, sick as anything.
Yep.
That's when I go to the doctor. And I'm assuming a lot of people like that with the mental side of their health as well.
Yeah.
As an acting, psych and that sort of stuff, when would you recommend that people come and have a chat?
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly anytime that there's, any kind of symptoms, anxiety, depression, anything like that, difficulties sleeping, kind of difficulties in your relationships, anytime that something's happened, kind of something's going on internally that's really kind of affecting you. If you find that the usual ways that you manage things is some people exercise, some people, do some mindfulness meditation sort of stuff, see friends. The usual things, if the usual things that you do to kind of feel good within yourself, to manage your mental health, if they're not really working anymore, and if you feel as though that, kind of there's any kind of, what do you call it, kind of out of character, if you don't sort of feel yourself, if things feel like they're sort of getting on top of you, certainly I would sort of say, look, kind of we all have days where, we just have a shit day. Kind of we feel stressed and overwhelmed, and kind of we're all going to have days where things get kind of on top of us. But certainly, I guess if things do continue for a prolonged period of time, I'd say I wouldn't leave it any more than sort of a couple of days to a week.
Yeah.
Because we know that kind of the quicker you get onto these things, the quicker typically that you're able to get resolution to things. I guess kind of waiting too long often leads to kind of symptoms getting worse and difficulties kind of blowing out to maybe be bigger than they needed to be in the first case. So generally speaking, the quicker you get onto something, kind of the quicker you're able to feel relief as well.
Yeah.
And how does the people start that journey, if you will? But what do they do in the initial steps?
Yeah, sure. Look, probably yes, branding on points. Yeah. Look, the easiest thing to do would be to have a conversation with your GP. So in order to get a referral to see a psychologist, you can self-refer. You can see someone. You don't need a referral. You can just rock up and book an appointment. Well, not rock up, you have to book an appointment. But certainly GPs, if they write a referral, you get you get a rebate back from Medicare. So there's often, it makes it a bit more easier from a financial perspective, which is helpful. And it's also, I guess, helpful to, I always encourage people to really have an ongoing relationship with their GP, to try to choose. I know these days we've got a lot of, there's GP super clinics, bulk billing clinics, all that type of thing. But if you can, try to at least stay with the same clinic, preferably even the same GP as well, so that one person gets to know you, kind of holistically. There are GPs as well that, have a special interest in mental health. It's hard actually, to sort of, GPs aren't the best at marketing themselves. So it is hard trying to find out, kind of who is a good GP to sort of see. So certainly word of mouth recommendations can be helpful. Sometimes people, if they've seen me, they said, look, I need to find a new GP. Do you have any recommendations? So if you are seeing a psych, it might be useful if you're not happy with the GP to ask. But they're really, I guess, people sometimes work with a psychologist for a period of time, kind of 10 sessions, 20 sessions, however many sessions. But they tend to see GPs, kind of over a period of years. If you're kind of staying, if you sort of live, work and play in the same suburb and you really kind of plant roots down and you live in somewhere for 30 years, it's not uncommon for people to really see a GP over a period of decades. And, having someone that knows you well over that period of time can be helpful because they can see it too. It's having a professional perspective. If you've got that good relationship with your GP, you're asking before, how do you know whether I should see someone? I mean, sometimes getting a second opinion, hey, look, I just feel a bit off. And they'll be able to tell if they know you well, kind of what's going on and how you're going within yourself as well. So GPs often will have their own, kind of psychologists that they refer out to. So I guess some questions to ask about or think about is depending on what it is, what difficulties you're having, relationship difficulties, depression, trauma, stress, whatever it is. Hey, look, kind of, do you know someone that has seen, kind of this type of difficulty before and has had, kind of, you've got good feedback from. So GPs do these referrals every day, that they're used to seeing people for mental health concerns as well. So they've got really good networks. The other thing that you can sort of do as well, there's a couple of, probably the best one would be the APS Find a Psychologist website. So if you Google APS, A for Apple, P for Peter, S for Sam, Find a Psychologist, it's basically a search engine where you can type in difficulties that you're going through, where you're living, that type of thing, and it'll come up with a bunch of therapists in that area. And again, kind of therapists, we're not great either, just as the GPs are at marketing ourselves, but more and more there are people that are, having some sort of a presence online on the socials, they've got web pages up, blogs, so you can get a bit of a feel. I mean, certainly I've got, Instagram, Facebook, all that type of stuff, because I think sometimes people need to, kind of see what someone looks like, what someone sounds like, how they're sort of working and how they've sort of, their working style as well. So, and the other thing I would say as well is that I see people sometimes and for a variety of reasons, they decide not to continue on with me. And they go off and hopefully they find help somewhere else. And conversely as well, I see people that have seen other psychologists and it hasn't worked out and they do amazingly well with me. So what I would say as well is don't be put off if you see someone and it doesn't quite work out in the way that you had sort of hoped, it didn't match up to your expectations, that type of thing as well. Kind of really persevere with it. I would sort of say, and I tell people that see me, that you really should get a feel for someone by about, kind of certainly 2 to 3 sessions. Not to say that everything changes and everything's fine after that, but you'll get a good idea as to, whether or not you feel as though they understand you and you feel as though that they can help you as well. So it doesn't take too long to really kind of get that sort of an idea, hopefully. And so what I would sort of say is that sometimes it can take a little while to sort of find someone that you feel as though that you gel with. I mean, kind of we're not, we're not friends with everyone. We're not all drawn to the same people. And that is going to be the same thing with a therapist too. It's a human interaction. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. Not that it's anyone's fault or anything. So, I mean, don't be put off by that.
Jamie, if you could suggest for the masses and
masses,
hey, Mum,
for Mum,
what's one thing people could implement now that would make the biggest change? What would you suggest?
Right, we're talking psychology, business, so we're going to delve.
Let's do psychology.
Psychology, cool. I would say just taking a moment to, kind of check in with yourself sort of emotionally. So if you're feeling a bit sort of stressed, a little bit sort of anxious, a little bit tired perhaps, kind of maybe just kind of see, if you have a row with your partner about something, kind of maybe just take a moment to sort of think about what was sort of going on, what's going on for you. I had an example that sort of came up. I was talking to a mate that is just about to go into private practice for himself. He's kind of making that transition where he's working for, a government sort of agency and about to start private practice. And he was telling me that he was in supervision the other day, and he was just talking kind of nonstop about the financial side of things. And so supervisor kind of just stopped him and said, "Hey, what's the thing with your money?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, kind of just take a moment and stop and think about what's going on for you right now, because if you kind of figure it out, you'll be less anxious." So sometimes I think we live such busy, fast-paced lives that we often don't stop to take a moment to check in with ourselves as to how we're sort of feeling. If we're feeling anxious and stressed, what that really sort of is about. We often, you were saying before, Jake, about, kind of ignoring, kind of health things. And it's not until you got one foot in the grave that you might think, oh, I might go and see the GP. Yeah. If we do the same thing with our mental health too, kind of we can get into trouble if we've got too much stress and not enough, kind of ways to relieve that stress as well. So just taking a moment, it doesn't have to be long, literally a minute, 30 seconds every day to sort of check back in. How am I sort of feeling? What's going on in my life at the moment? How am I coping? Am I on top of things, or are things starting to become a little bit too much for me as well?
Mate, I appreciate your time. Jake, before we get into the back end of it, you got any other questions you want to hit Jamie up about?
Probably got one, and I mean, it's probably for the masses out there and people like me that may not have had too much experience in, having a session or, going and seeing someone like yourself, Jamie. But when someone comes in for the first time, what sort of is that process like for them? What do you go through? Like, because I know a lot of people can be, I'm assuming quite a lot of people could be fairly apprehensive.
Absolutely.
Thinking that they've got to spill their absolute guts and soul to someone that they've never even met before. What's the first sort of, what do you do? How do you break that down for them to make them sort of feel at home?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this probably comes back to, depending on, I guess, how the therapist sort of works. There's a whole bunch of different therapeutic frameworks. And so I guess I tend to sort of be a lot more process sort of based in that, kind of, I don't tend to dive into someone's history, particularly when I first meet them as well. I don't think that's really fair for someone to, kind of have to dive in and tell the deepest, darkest secrets. I tend to just sort of think, well, they'll tell me what they feel comfortable with when they feel ready to. Generally speaking, there's been something that has prompted someone to get to look for help at that point in time. So even for people that have had, kind of really quite difficult histories and have had quite a long history of just, they've had, kind of really difficult mental health problems most of their life, something has happened at that particular point in time. So I tend to, kind of camp around that area for quite a while and find out, kind of why now, even for people that have seen 10 psychs, upwards of 10 psychs or more, why did they decide to come back and seek help at that particular time? What has been the catalyst or, kind of the precipitant toward them kind of seeking help? I tend to try to focus on, I guess I was saying before, trying to really find, are there any kind of repressed emotions? Are there any kind of emotional blocks? Kind of what are the things that kind of make someone anxious? So, kind of if I start asking about, kind of the difficulty at work, they seem kind of a bit detached, a bit sort of distant, and I kind of pull them up, say, hey, look, what's going on right now? And then all of a sudden they become anxious. Then, kind of it helps me to sort of think, okay, well, something happens when I kind of point out to them stuff that they're doing with me, that sort of makes them anxious. So for me, the first session is about, well, I guess I should say that I tend to see people for twice as long for the first session. They're in the room with me for 1.5 to up to 2 hours because there's generally a lot of stuff that comes out in that first session as well. And I was saying that, kind of if you build the foundation right, then things can start to fall into place down the track. And so I found that when I was seeing people for, kind of the standard 50-minute session, the very first time I met them, it probably takes about 50 minutes until we start to think, oh, okay, this is it. This is where we need to be. And then, kind of they're off and then you don't see them for 2 weeks. So I found for me, kind of having an extra long sort of session really helps me to, kind of be able to gauge someone's tolerance for anxiety. So I guess you were asking before, how do we kick things off? I generally will get straight into things and say, you know what, tell me what sort of brings you here. And I've had a number of different responses to that. I've had people that have had a panic attack. As soon as I've asked them that, I've had people that are able to quite quickly and succinctly tell me about the difficulties. And I've had people that have, you know, kind of really been quite vague and you know, kind of really not really talked about much of anything at all. I've had to really dig to find what it is that they're sort of seeing me for. And so one of the things I guess that any therapist should be doing is try to sort of gauge what is this person's, I guess, capacity to be able to deal with, you know, kind of emotional pressure, anxiety, because that really informs how, you know, kind of how do I pitch this thing? For some people, you can put lots and lots of pressure and you can sort of get right into the thick of things. And for other people, like that person that had the panic attack, basically the moment they walked in the door, things you got to be a lot more gentler and a lot more slower. As well. I did write a blog as well about this that probably articulates this a bit better than I can. It's almost 9 o'clock at night down in Melbourne. So there is a blog that I write. You're welcome to sort of put it up if you like, what to expect in a first therapy session. So I can text it through to you guys afterward. If people are keen to hear a little bit more about what to sort of expect, if that's something that would be of interest to people.
I'll definitely give it a look, mate, for sure. I don't know about anyone else, but I like my eyes on it, that's for sure.
My Google Analytics will go up by one, so it's awesome. Fantastic.
Jamie, is there anything else that we've missed that you want to shine a spotlight on?
Look, I don't think so. I think for me, like I guess my journey has kind of been slow and steady. And I think that has really been, I guess, in fitting with my personality style. I'm pretty risk averse, not one to sort of, you know, kind of take big, crazy, huge risks. And so for me, I guess my business was really a reflection of that. And so I think for coming back to a business point of view, really kind of your business, I've heard some people say your business is kind of an extension of you as well. So if you have a business, if you want to sort of grow a business, I would say really kind of just get to know yourself, because, you know, your business will just be an extension of that. Love
that. And let the raving fans know where they can find you.
The raving fans. Yeah. Awesome. So my website, drjamie.com.au. I've got Facebook and Insta, so at Dr. Jamie Barnier. Do you have show notes or anything if people are a bit unsure of the spelling? I'm sure it'll be there somewhere. Yeah. If you just Google it. Everywhere. That's right. Everywhere. But, you know, the website, I've got a few blogs up there and that type of thing as well. And you know, I've been a bit inactive on the socials. I've been, you know, quite busy clinically, you know, kind of working a bit more than I had intended to. So I've been a bit quiet on the socials, but am planning on, you know, kind of pulling my finger out and getting back on there and posting some stuff and videos. And so, yeah, hopefully there'll be some stuff up there soon. I love it, mate. Well, I just got another message from Mum, the Gem, said her and Dad are very, very proud. So I'll push that forward. Yeah. Awesome. Jamie, look, I appreciate your time, mate. I know you're flat out, and I know it's getting a bit late there, mate. So thanks for joining us. Pleasure. We'll put all the socials down and all the stuff. Awesome. Jake, thanks for jumping in, brother. We'll see you shortly as well. Ladies and gents, Mum, have a good night. Jamie, thanks for joining us. Jake, I'll see you tomorrow.
Bet you will, mate.
See you guys. Have a good night.